also have that sense of not knowing the person you are after the
Mhm.
head injury, like who am I and how am I gonna go forward, right?
Yeah.
And I had that feeling, like I would look in the mirror and go, I see the same face, but I don't know that person behind the eyes.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to Retrieving Sanity with your podcast host, Keegan, and this is your podcast for all mental health, addiction, recovery issues, and topics. And I've got some questions for you. Does your head kind of hurt? Have you hit it a little bit too hard? Well, good news, because you're in the right spot, because we're speaking to Kelly Tuttle. She is a neurology nurse practitioner and martial artist and traumatic brain injury survivor, and she's written a book. It's called After the Crash. And we've had her on the show before, and we talked all about TBIs, and we talked about her story, found out that I had some TBIs myself, but we are here to figure out what it's like to rebuild identity with a TBI. So, Kelly, how have you been since our last episode, really?
I've been really good. I'm so glad to be here again. Thank you.
Of course. It's an honor to have you back on the show because I know I kind of felt like I flubbed it up a little bit the first time because I was like, ooh, this is interesting, learning that I have a TBI whenever a TBI was something that was like for veterans or someone that went through something like really, 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 really bad, but it's actually not quite what it was, right?
It could be, from like we talked about before, a fall. You fell off your bike, right? As
Mm-hmm.
a young
Early on,
child.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it could be from a car accident. It could be from, just like you said, a vet experiencing being close to an explosion. It could be a penetrating object. But you could also have other types of injuries to the brain through like poisoning, monoxide poisoning, lead poisoning, loss of oxygen, which could be from a near drowning or cardiac arrest, strokes, which could be from a blood clot or a blood vessel breaking and bleeding into the brain. It could be from an infection such as COVID-19 or any other virus that is able to cause neural inflammation in the brain. So there's a lot of ways that the brain can be injured that a lot of people don't realize and kind of don't, include themselves in that basket of our tribe so that they can learn more about brain injuries and then benefit from the information about how to live with a brain injury and to get help with the symptoms that you are still living with.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, even though we had touched on it before, I wasn't really quite aware that even something like COVID-19 could give something someone could describe as a traumatic brain injury. But it would make sense because it is an injury to the brain. But what is it that you think makes people not really want to seek help in that regard? Is it because it's still something that they could define as mental health and that is therefore taboo?
Yeah, so that can definitely happen mistakenly, that someone who has a type of brain injury or a concussion can go in and they could say, hey, every time I go out to a restaurant or a bar or a grocery store, I get really anxious and I don't want to leave my house. I'm having panic attacks.
Yeah.
Well, what you would automatically think, oh, okay, mental health issue. Let's help this person with their anxiety and their panic attacks. But the real underlying issue that people may not understand, and that could be the patient and the provider, is that being out at a bar or being in a grocery store is a very stimulating environment, and they're suffering actually from overstimulation. And that can give you symptoms of a headache, irritability, dizziness, difficulty with decision making, confusion, those kinds of things.
Gotcha. So how would you tell someone that they're probably experiencing something along those lines of that overstimulation effect, where it's not something that there's nothing quote unquote wrong with them, but there is something going on with them,
It's nice to hear that you're not going quote unquote crazy. Because that's what you feel like when you don't know what's going on. You're like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting this way? Like snapping at people and being irritable, and I can't make a decision to save my life. And when you sit down with your provider and you go, well, you had that fall 6 months ago, and you're still recovering from your head injury, and these symptoms are very common. And then that really helps the person kind of relax, and it opens up their mind to realize that there are possibilities to support their brains and not have to live in confusion. So if someone told me they were feeling really anxious at the grocery store, I would say, well, do you have any issues with light sensitivity? Because grocery stores have those horrible fluorescent lights, right? And they're the worst, even if you have a healthy brain. And so, you really have to suss it out. So I would ask about light sensitivity, symptoms that I'm aware of that can suggest light sensitivity. I said, is it the noise? Because they usually have music playing. Do you have difficulty reading like it in an environment where there's noise or distractions? So with someone with those symptoms, I would recommend then, if they have the light sensitivity, wear dark glasses. If they have the sound sensitivity, wear some noise canceling earbuds or headphones. And then the other thing is, grocery stores are like really tricky visually.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain, but the way the aisles are, and they kind of converge, and it plays with the brain. And if you're suffering from a brain injury, you're going to be more sensitive to that, and to those kind of visual, kind of weird things that normally would filter out and be used to. So there might be this sense of disorientation, like, why am I uncomfortable here? And then you're looking at the shelf and you're like, all I want is a can of pinto beans, but there's all these beans, and you're overwhelmed by the choices, and it's difficult to pick out, because of the distractions, to pick out that one thing that you want. You got light, sound, people moving around you. And then, having to pay attention to make sure you're not standing in the middle of the aisle blocking somebody else, right?
Yeah,
That's a lot of stuff to manage. So those are some of the tools that I would use. I would definitely tell them, take a list, stick to the list, go to the same grocery store, get to know it, keep going to the same grocery store, because then you're going to know the things that you need and where they're at, and you can get out as quickly as possible. Go when your energy is up, not when your energy is down, those kinds of things. But in the long run, if you didn't know these things, then they would be diagnosed with anxiety, or social anxiety, not wanting to be out in the public and stuff. And that's not necessarily true. It's just that their brain is overwhelmed.
Yeah, and that's got to be really difficult whenever you're already pretty set in who you are as a person, right? Because a lot of us really have our identity in how we handle our social selves, and TBI can sit there and mess with us all the way down to our personal lives, to how we operate. So how does it feel to, well, really re-identify yourself, or rather remake yourself? Is that more along the lines of what you would say that is after a TBI?
Yeah, I would definitely say it is one of the common symptoms to lose your self-identity and to have behavioral issues, whether that is, being irritable, more grumpy, and that goes with the overwhelm and the fatigue. You could have impulsivity, which is where you would do things that you normally wouldn't do, like spend too much money, gamble, have an affair.
Oh no.
Over shopping, or start using alcohol and drugs to start treating your symptoms because you don't know what's going on. Or which can happen after a brain injury is sleep disorders. You might start to self-treat your sleep disorders, with alcohol or drugs too. And then there you are, you're in a really bad cyclone going down the drain of trouble. So yes, so there could be changes in personalities. Like we talked about neurofatigue before. So you could go from a high energetic, goal-driven person to a person who has to monitor their energy throughout the day and take rest breaks, embrace a more simple, more slower pace of life. You could have someone like me who used to be a t-shirt and jeans kind of gal, and then after my head injury, I was like fascinated with fashion and makeup and jewelry, which is really bizarre. And then you can also have that sense of not knowing the person you are after the head injury, like who am I, and how am I going to go forward, right?
Yeah.
And I had that feeling, like I would look in the mirror and go, I see the same face, but I don't know that person behind the eyes. And so what I did is I just sat down and journaled. And yeah, you feel really lost. You don't know yourself anymore. And what I realized with my journaling, it helped me understand that my passions and my goals and my values changed after my brain injury. And once I got to know what I was more interested in, what I liked, and kind of, we talked about this, I put a line down the piece of paper and I put all the things I had before the brain injury and then all the things I gained after it. And so there was like on the old person, I put, things that I liked doing was going on adventures, snowboarding, was planning on going to law school. And then on the right, I put enjoy a more simple life, being in the moment, more gratitude, family and friends, and time with them became more of a priority. And once I did that and then got to know my own new values and passions, then I knew where to go forward in my life. Because knowing your values and your passions and what's important to you really helps you hold on to your North Star and prevents you from getting distracted by these sparkly objects here and that shiny little ring there. That can happen throughout life. That'll take you on a track where you don't really want to go.
Yeah, that's for sure. And living with intention and having that idea of who we are is something that I think is crucial for really anyone, whether they've been through a TBI or not. But in that sense of refinding out your identity, because sometimes some people may have just realized like, oh shit, like I actually don't have an identity, do I? And maybe sometimes in your case they find out that they had all this added onto it, or a little bit of things changed. But one of the things that I think that you kind of had the benefit of, rather, was that you had journaled in the past, correct?
A little bit, not so much though.
Oh, okay. So
yeah,
it all started afterwards.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Like I had journaled before when I was child free, and then I had kids, and that was, you have no life after that. It's all about them. And so, so then when I had the concussion, had to slow down, and, I had a shoddy memory and all that stuff, I started journaling.
Gotcha. Okay. For some reason, I thought that it was something that you had always kind of done. With that being said, you had mentioned before that you were working on something with a journal of sorts, correct?
Oh, yeah. It's like I talk to my patients and I always recommend journaling. Start journaling. And a lot of times they would say, well, I don't know how to journal, or how do I even start? Or if I don't have time or whatever. And so that's why when I came up with the idea of writing a journal, I wanted to create one for brain injury survivors. And this is really specific. Anybody could use it, but I like that it has prompts in it to help get started. Lots of open space. So if you don't know what to write, you could just draw pictures, which is really healthy for your brain, doodling. And it has a mood tracker. You start off with the date at the top,
Uh-huh.
And then it has a what I call wellness log, and
Huh.
you write down if you practice mindfulness, what your energy level is. Is it low, okay, or good? Did you exercise, and for how long?
Ooh.
And the type of exercise, like say it's walking or chair yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Did you spend time outside? Did you sleep good? How many hours did you sleep? And is today a good brain day or a bad brain day?
Yeah.
And it starts off with morning musing. So I think it's great when you journal and you're recovering from your brain injury that you write down, like, today I want to fold the laundry.
Mm.
And then I have space for the end of the day. And then you could
Mm-hmm.
say, I didn't get to fold the laundry
Mm.
because I got distracted and I took a 5-hour nap and you know, and then what can I do tomorrow to try to stay focused on getting that laundry folded?
Mm-hmm.
And I have a section that says one thing you will do to make tomorrow better, and then a little section where you can write what you're grateful for, because gratefulness is very healthy and supporting of the brain.
Hmm. It is. Really? Huh.
Yeah,
Like, that's backed up by studies and stuff?
it's just things that I've read that
Oh,
it
okay.
for it's just supportive in healing the patients with brain injuries feel better when they practice mindfulness and
Mm-hmm.
gratefulness.
Okay. Interesting. So I wonder how much of an impact that actually has in someone's neuroplasticity. Would that actually be something that you would take into account whenever someone is going through their recovery phase? Is like how, like, because if they're not really mindful of their level of injury, then how can they really be sure they're getting better, right?
Right. So if they don't have the self awareness, then the caregivers and the people around them really have to help them with that.
Mm.
And then the caregiver could do the journaling and say, hey, I know you're having a bad day, but let's look back at this journal.
Hmm.
Remember that day when you couldn't figure out how to put your shoes on,
Hmm.
and now you put your shoes on all by yourself?
Ah, gotcha.
That kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But with neuroplasticity, from what I understand, is it
Hmm.
can be positive or it can be negative. So
Hmm.
you can, if you think of negative thoughts and ruminating thoughts,
Hmm.
then your brain's gonna be wired to think that way, and then you're not gonna feel good because you're gonna think, oh, I'm not good enough, I can't do this or that, and
Hmm.
it's because of that car accident, and now I'm never gonna be the person I'm gonna be. So
Hmm.
if you think about those things, then it's just gonna perpetuate more negative thinking.
Hmm.
But if you can identify negative thinking and say, I am good enough, when you hear you're not good enough or you're a failure, and you can say, no, I'm not.
Hmm.
I am good enough. Then that's that plasticity to change that way of thinking.
Hmm.
So when you practice mindfulness, you take a
Hmm.
moment and you ground yourself and become more aware of the thoughts that do float around in your brain, whether they're
Hmm.
positive or negative. If they're negative, then you can change the script or at least be
Hmm.
aware of it, or, write it down, journal it later, talk to someone about it. Um, but most of the time, if you really think about those negative Nancy's and Bobby Bullies in our brain, they're just full of it. Like, you
Yeah.
should just tell them to shut up.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I think that's like where the mindfulness and the gratefulness is beneficial,
Hmm.
because you're doing that plasticity. You're changing those thoughts. So it's a little
Hmm.
bit like cognitive behavioral talk therapy. That's what they
Hmm.
do. They ask you, what are the thoughts that you have that are negative? Like, I really hate my job, that kind of thought.
Hmm.
And they'll say, well, what is it that you don't like? And they give you what's in your power, what's not, and they give you the tools, and then they help
Hmm.
you change that mindset. Like, I really like my job because I get a paycheck, but I don't like my job because my manager's a jerk.
Yeah.
You kind of work through that. But
Uh-huh.
so yeah, the mindfulness, that gratefulness, And then the cognitive behavioral therapy really help with that neuroplasticity of changing those negative thoughts into more supportive thinking and
Hmm.
thoughts.
Okay. I love how you're saying that someone should change their way of thinking on that end because it does help rewire themselves in a way, but at the same time, in a sense, I'm kind of hearing the sense of like you tell them to shut up, but you can do it in a polite way that reminds them like, hey, just to kind of get back in line.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I
Yeah.
love how you're sitting there and you created this whole journal. And you even said that after you had kids, you didn't really have the time. But whenever someone has TBI, they're sitting there and they suddenly either maybe have a whole bunch of time on their hands, or maybe they also maybe don't because just trying to do normal everyday things is a task in its own right. So you made that to where it's something that someone can just open up and fill out in probably about 5 minutes, give or take, depending on their recovery level, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, something really easy to pick up and set down. And
Mm-hmm.
a caregiver can start your journaling too
Uh-huh.
if you're just not able to do it.
Yeah.
Caregiver can ask the questions and fill it out or
Mm-hmm.
write, how the day went.
Okay. How often do you think someone should sit there and like reflect on their previous journal entries?
Oh, so I usually recommend people to look back at their journal entries at least every 3 months for the
Hmm.
first 6 months, and then every 6 months for a year after that, and then
Huh.
every year after that.
Okay.
So,
So,
yeah. Or whenever you're having a really bad day and you're like, ugh, I can't go on anymore. This sucks. And
mm-hmm.
you can look back and go, oh, yeah, I remember when I couldn't make toast and coffee at the same time.
Aw.
And now I'm back at work.
Uh-huh. That's a big deal.
That's
That
a
is a
big
big deal.
deal. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that that's really cool to highlight those little mini victories, because a lot of the times we're going through life and we get hit with things left and right, and we don't really have a lot of time to really recover. And at the same time, we're just told that we need to put our nose to the mill and grindstone, just keep working, working, working. And we don't really offer ourselves or allow ourselves that little bit of a break, that little bit of a, hey, like I did it, like good job, me for once. But it's sitting there and it's kind of like counterintuitive to really not do that, right? If we just sit there and work until there's nothing left, how do we know that we're actually doing good for ourselves, right?
Right. Well, in general, it's not good to put your nose to the grind. I think that's a really that is a wrong way of thinking in the US,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
our workers, just like what I did was like I got to get back to work, after my concussion and pushing,
Hmm.
pushing, pushing, and then I finally fell asleep at the wheel,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And that is no way to live. And you will live a much happier life if you rest.
Hmm.
If you, first of all, make sleep a priority, get that 7 to 9 hours of sleep. A lot of people
Hmm.
don't.
Hmm.
They don't value sleep, and they feel they have so much stuff to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you, resting is resistance, and there's actually a book about that. Rest is resistance,
Huh.
and I forgot the author's name, and I'm
Here,
really really sorry.
I'll look it up. I'll look it up.
Okay,
Rest
um,
is resistance.
yeah,
See, Trisha Hersey.
yes,
Okay.
yes. It's a really good book to kind of get you to rethink the working culture that we have here in the U.S.
Hmm. Okay.
and to really respect rest, because when you respect rest, you're creating a space where you can think and get in touch with yourself and get in touch with your true values. You'll become more creative, better at problem solving, and just a more compassionate and understanding person. But after a brain injury, you may not have a choice. You may
Mm-hmm.
have to rest. You may have to sit with yourself because you
Mm-hmm.
can't do anything else. You're
Yeah.
too tired, or you're dizzy, or you have a
Mm-hmm.
horrific headache. There were just times where I just sat and stared.
Uh-huh. Ouch.
Because I was not tired enough to fall asleep, but I was too tired to do anything else.
Mm.
You just sit
Okay.
there.
Well, thankfully, you weren't really too beat up with yourself, right? Like as a person, did you have a lot of demons you were running from in that time frame? Because I know for me, whenever I've had to rest and I didn't want to rest, I've been faced with a lot of demons that just came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, we're like, "Hey, you can't run away from us at the moment. So what are you going to do about it?" And it sucked. So, did you have something similar, or were you kind of like off in a better headspace than that?
No, initially I was not in a good headspace. Even became I even had suicidal ideation. Like I
Mm,
thought that my family would have been better off if I had died because I felt like I wasn't doing enough or being working enough, being a good enough
mm,
mom, being a good enough partner with my husband because, he
yeah,
got just stuck with all the childcare and the
yeah.
household, stuff. It was a very dark time.
Mm,
And yeah, I just with talk therapy and I have really good relationship with my husband. We're very good at communicating and I had supportive family and friends and yeah, that was really, really helpful and colleagues at work that were super supportive. And with all of that, that kept me out of trouble.
mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. I mean, I think that that is definitely the way to go, is having that connection, that support system of sorts, that support net per se. And
Hmm.
I can definitely say that that is one thing that I may have had sort of kind of ish, but I've always been more of a loner or hermit type. And I can tell you right now that it has definitely done me more disservice than it would if I were to actually open up and communicate how I felt or things like that along those lines, you know. So it would have been probably doubly more so for me in the middle of everything, such as yourself, because it's one of those, you're a caregiver and now you're having the tables like flipped on you, right? You're having to sit there
Hmm.
and now you're being taken care of more or less. And so I bet that that was a tough transition as well, correct?
Right, it was. I remember the day before my appointment with my physical medicine and rehab doctor, I
Hmm.
was freaking out because I had to call in sick at work to go to the appointment because
Oh.
I was scheduled to work. I had to sit down and say, "Hey, Kelly, this is your brain. You lecture patients all day long to take their hearts seriously and
Hmm.
you're not taking your brain seriously, that's ridiculous."
Hmm.
And so then I got the courage to call in and take that day off
Hmm.
to see the physical medicine rehab doctor. And as I said on your show earlier, that was when my trajectory on my recovery changed from bad
Hmm.
to good.
Yeah. um, and speaking of having a doctor help you through that, how were they able to help you identify those invisible injuries? Kind of like what we were talking about before. It's almost the same as overstimulation in sorts, right? But there's other invisible injuries that go on with having a TBI that you may have to navigate, that you can journal about, right?
Right. So, my insurance providers, the providers I saw that were covered by my insurance were helpful to a point,
Hmm.
but I had to go outside of my health insurance to see specialists. And
Hmm.
though I saw a vision specialist and I saw a neurobehavioralist,
Hmm.
a behavioral neurologist, sorry.
Okay.
And the neurobehavior neuro neurology behavioralist was able to recognize that I had those sensory overloads, and then
Hmm.
so he referred me to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor helped also with my sound sensitivity. But they figured it out there's some standardized questionnaires that you can fill out that'll alert your provider that things are going on. There's the sound sensitivity survey is a COFTA survey, and I can't remember how to spell it off the top of my head. It's in my book though. But you can take that and it'll notify your doctor how the severity of your sound sensitivity. But those people really helped me with the being able to apply external tools to support filters for my brain so I could continue to go out into the world and the bright and loud environment of the world that we live in.
Yeah, because there's a whole lot of stuff that we don't necessarily take into account every day because we literally take it for granted because it's something that, like you said earlier, it's just something that we're so used to. And it's kind of like falling asleep on your foot, right? You stand up, all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, there's a foot there. How do I use it again? Like, am I standing on it right? This doesn't feel right. But where can people find your book real quick? Because you've got a website for everyone to check out all of your resources, right?
Exactly, at kellytuttle.org.
All right.
And my book is, you can get it at your favorite indie store, but it's also available on Amazon and on Audible. So if you're having a tough time with reading and memory and all that stuff, I put it on Audible to make it easier for you to access.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that you actually read it yourself and you were working with a sound engineer that helped you whenever you either mispronounced a word or accidentally skipped a line and stuff like that. And I thought that was really cool because some people have a book and a lot of people don't have their own Audible version. And I mean, you did both while fighting the neuro fatigue. So that was a pretty interesting feat of its own right.
Oh my gosh, it was. And it was holidays. It was like I did it like around Thanksgiving, December. I was like, oh, this is crazy.
Oh,
crazy.
Man. Oh, I didn't realize you did it like on your spare time. Oh, geez.
Oh, yeah. So I would work 5 days a week. And then on the weekend, I would go and do recording on, I think, just one day, Saturday. I think it took me about 4 recordings. But then after I did the recording, the sound studio would send me the recording. I'd have to sit at home and listen with the book and make sure it sounded good. I mean, it was a lot. It was a lot. I wanted to cry, but I didn't.
Oh man. Hopefully you're not one of those people that are like, oh man, that's what I sound like. Oh crap.
No, I kind of got over that when I started making videos for social media. At first I was like, but now I'm used to it. Hey, this is how I sound. You like it or you don't.
I know for myself that was one of the bigger things that it took a while of getting used to was, I thought I sound different. Man, I feel bad for everyone that's ever listened to me try karaoke.
Definitely. You sound different in your head as opposed to, in the real world.
Speaking of how you sound or hearing things, whenever someone experiences a TBI, some people are afraid that could be a schizophrenic, correct? Some people I've heard are afraid that if they hit their head too much, that they'll go crazy, quote unquote.
No, I haven't seen that. Most of my research and my knowledge is with mild brain injuries. Now, that might be more so with moderate or severe, but I don't really know. But I am. You can have auditory hallucinations where you hear things like, like music, or you think somebody is knocking on the door or something like that. Those, when I had experience with patients with that, they usually had, it was a type of seizure. It was an auditory type of seizure.
I mean, that would explain my thing. Whenever I went to go get my alcohol detox, I was in there for maybe a day or so before the delirium tremens kicked in, and I'll never forget it because it sounded like someone had music just playing on headphones this far away from my ears, and it was full entire albums from start to finish, every note, every lyric, and it was pretty intense. Like trying to listen to that and people talk at the same time was it was bad.
Oh.
And then they found me on the floor seizing, and then I woke up in the hospital 4 days later. So yay! But
Yes, that can happen. Yeah. Yeah, you have
mhm,
to, yeah, if anybody wants to start to cut back, stop using alcohol and drugs, they need to consult with a professional because yeah, that can happen. That's
mhm,
awful.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
You want to
thank
be under care when that happens.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that alcohol withdrawal can and will kill you, and if it wasn't for the environment I was in, I would have died. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And same thing with medication. So if
Mhm,
you're used to taking like Vicodin or Percocet for
mhm,
chronic pain,
uh-huh,
and you want to reduce the dose, you don't want to do a cold turkey
mhm,
or methadone or any of those things. You've got to
mhm,
do a slow titration, and you need to let your prescribing doctor know so they can monitor and make sure you're
mhm.
doing it safely.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because like you had said earlier, a TBI can be caused by many different things, and substances are one of those things that will affect our brain very quickly, very easily, and a lot of the time on accident, hopefully. But
but yeah, a seizure. I have seen that. I've had patients that have had seizures after withdrawing from alcohol. So yeah, it's
mm,
serious. So you really got to do it with support, medical support.
yeah, for sure. It's one of those things that just because it's socially acceptable does not mean that it is easy to get off. It is not something
Mm-mm.
to really just minimize its impact, because I had to let some people know, like, hey, it changed up the way my body operated, like on a cellular level, because I almost didn't eat for years because I got most of my calories from alcohol. So that was the thing, is that my body realized that with alcohol, that's how it operated. Without it, it didn't know what to do anymore. So it just kind of freaked out. So whenever everything just went away, it was so people that sit there and think that they're okay with just trying or experimenting things need to remember that their brain is at stake. And as fun as some things can be, speaking from experience, you got to be really responsible at the same time. So we speak to psychedelic experts for that reason. So people, we all be responsible for with your party time or whatever you want to do.
Well, it's that's common with a lot of like even over the counter medications. Like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I would run into quite a bit is rebound headaches.
Mm.
And yeah, and so uh what rebound headaches are is when your body gets used to having caffeine in it and
Ooh.
Motrin and Tylenol because the person has had chronic headaches, and so they
Mm-hmm.
treat it with, and caffeine's a great pain reliever.
Mm-hmm.
And they take their Motrin, their Tylenol, it's over the counter, so it must be safe, and they take it. If you get used to taking it more than 3 times a week, and do that for several months, then if you try to come off the medication, like, oh, I'm taking too much Tylenol, I'm going to cut back, then
Oh.
the headache comes back even worse. So it's a
Mm.
rebound headache. So it
Ooh.
gets triggered when the caffeine wears out or the ibuprofen wears off or the Tylenol. And so the
Mhm.
person keeps taking it to try to control that headache. And yeah, our bodies can get really used to certain substances and medications. And that's why you really should talk to a prescribing provider if
Mhm.
you're going to be using a medication more than 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and or if you've been using it for years and you want to cut back, they can help you with that and then kind of warn you like, well, if you do this, you may feel this way or whatever.
Mhm.
But the treatment for rebound headaches
Mhm.
sucks.
Ugh.
It's 90 days, no medications.
Oh,
Yeah, no chocolate, no caffeine,
what?
no Motrin, no Tylenol.
No,
You have to
nothing?
do a washout period. Yeah.
Oh.
And it can be tricky too, because it could be absolutely horrible. You'll have a horrific headache. So you may have to consult with a headache specialist to do that if you're thinking you have rebound headaches.
Rebound headaches sound terrible, but
Yeah, you should Google it.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, it almost feels like the hangover I had whenever I woke up in the hospital. I was running away from it for 10 years. Jeez. No thanks. But I mean, and that's one of the things too, is that headaches are a huge pain in the ass. And I mean, there's such a thing as suicidal headaches, correct? So
Yeah, there's a headache. It's I think it's a cluster headaches. Is it
yes,
cluster
yes,
headaches?
that's it.
Yeah, that have a real high suicidal rate because the pain is so awful, and it comes in episodes, and it's really hard to treat.
Does TBI, can that cause a cluster headache to occur?
Yeah, but most of the time it's either someone will have what we call traumatic headaches, which is kind of a chronic headache, a daily headache, and sometimes it can cause someone to develop migraine headaches. Can cause if there's a whiplash kind of involvement in the neck, you can get what we call occipital neuralgia type headache, which is a nerve that goes up the back of the neck and head. And then you can have the development of trigeminal pain, which is a type of headache that goes across the face, kind of like, like fingers like this. And so it can cause pain in the eye, the nose, and the mouth. And all those, you should really consult with a headache specialist to help you out with that. Usually, like I had a couple of my post-traumatic brain injury head survivors who had headaches, post-traumatic headaches, responded really well to a medication that you take every day to help control that pain and get that under control. I'm not going to say the medication because I really want people to go see the specialist, not listen, to me. But sometimes if your headaches are every day or most days of the week, then you need to take what doctors call preventative headache medication. And what that medication does is it helps reduce the frequency and intensity of your headaches. So you may have like a reduction of at least 30% of your headaches per month. Or you could have a real significant amount of reduction. Depends on the person. Everyone's different. And then when you go to use your abortive medication, whether it's your Imitrex or your Motrin, it's more effective in controlling the headache when it starts. So yeah, if you're having daily chronic headaches and your Tylenol and your Motrin are not being effective, you can talk to your doctor about a daily preventative headache treatment. But really what it comes down to, though, is you've got to have a really clean lifestyle to help prevent headaches. So if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night, it's going to be really difficult to control your headaches. If you've been diagnosed with sleep apnea and you're not compliant wearing your sleep mask every night, it's going to be really difficult controlling your headaches. You got to exercise. You got to eat a low inflammatory diet, stay hydrated, and manage your stress.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Headaches are tough.
Yeah. I mean, they sure sound like the pain in the head, that's for sure. But I hear that you've kind of circled back around to something that you mentioned early on, and I figured we might as well figure out why it's so important, and that is sleep. Why is sleep so important whenever it comes to dealing with the TBI or headaches? But sleep is the epitome of rest, right? Because we all kind of, it's the pre-trial of death, right?
Well, sleep is a actual function of the brain.
Okay.
So when you go to sleep, your brain goes to work, and there's lots of things that it does. One of the things is it cleans house. So there is kind of like a now I'm not going to remember the word, of course. It's like a lymphatic type system where they're not blood cells, but they're like the gutters of the body, and we actually have them in the brain. And when you go to sleep, these gutters, they open up and they wash out all the toxins and free radicals and proteins and things like that have been used up and you don't need to have in your brain. If you don't allow your brain the time to do this washout, lymphatic system, it came to me. So then you will have a buildup of toxins and proteins such as tau, which increases your buildup of tau, increases your risk of dementia down the road. So it really does enhance keeping the brain healthy by cleaning out toxins and waste. And sleep boosts the immune system, supports the immune system. There has been studies that show that if you get less than 6 hours of sleep prior to getting a vaccination, the vaccine isn't as effective as in the people who get the 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night.
Wow.
And all this that I'm talking about is in a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
Okay.
So if your listeners want to check that out, it's also on Audible, and I recommend listening to it because Matthew does a great job reading the book.
Okay.
But the other thing is that when you go to sleep, your brain works like a psychologist. It takes all the things that stressed you out or upset you during the day, and it softens the emotions, so that you can deal with it better the next day. So you know where the saying comes, why don't you go sleep on it? It's true. And then the other function is memory. So during the day, we're learning things, having experiences, and developing memories. And these daily occurrences are stored in the hippocampus. And if you think of a computer drive stick, memory stick, that's the hippocampus. It's like a memory stick that you carry around, and you put all your memories in it. But when you go to sleep, it disseminates those memories into the cortex of the brain. If you don't sleep long enough, then that transfer of information is not complete, and you will that's why people who are sleep deprived have difficulty with memory. And also sleep helps power your higher executive functions, such as planning, motivation, doing math, word finding, speaking, all those things. They all take a lot of brain energy, and if you're not sleeping, it's going to be difficult to power those higher executive functions.
Oh, wow.
So there's a ton of stuff. I don't know if I got it all, but
I mean, I think so, because, well, maybe not all of it, but I think the important parts that help us understand why sleep is actually so important. Because, I mean, there's definitely times where I know I'll wake up and it's like I definitely didn't get enough sleep, or I didn't sleep right somehow. I didn't know you could not sleep right. I thought you just go to sleep, but that's kind of the thing, is that every time I change up either my nighttime routine or what I do early in the morning, right after I wake up, it kind of just changes how I am. And that really does change things going on forward, And so I think that would explain a lot for some people that are trying to change something, is that maybe they changed something with their sleep and they didn't realize it. And all of a sudden they're kind of in this weird funk and they didn't realize, because they just are missing an hour or they gained another hour. Oh, that's a question. So whenever you get you don't sleep X amount of hours, and can you catch up on sleep?
I've seen and read different things. Personally, I think that you can, if you've had one bad night and you just give yourself some extra sleep the next day, I always feel better. It's like I catch up.
Uh-huh.
But if you chronically are sleep deprived, then you're not going to be able to fill up that bank. It's just like if you keep withdrawing money out of your bank and not putting it back in,
Mm-hmm.
it's just going to be a big fat red negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's going
Yeah.
to impact you. So research shows that people who get 6 hours of sleep or less have higher risks for heart attacks,
Hmm.
stroke, cancer, and dementia.
Okay. So next time someone tells me that sleep is for the weak, I'll just say no, sleep is for the healthy, and just see them in the morning.
Yes. Yes. And that's just the bad propaganda in our culture that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't value sleep,
Mm-hmm.
that just wants you to put your nose to the grind. And that's unhealthy. It's not a good idea. I don't recommend it at all.
Yeah.
Read Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh, for sure. I think that's the one that I'm going to have to put on my own reading list because it's just something that I would like to learn a little bit more about myself. But I've got one more question for you, Kelly, if you don't mind.
No.
All right. So, the name of this podcast is Retrieving Sanity, and we explore how all facets of living life impact mental health. Looking at the incredibly motley adventures of your life, what does retrieving sanity personally mean to you today, and what's one practice or perspective you believe is crucial for anyone on that journey?
I would say get in touch with what your values are, what's important to you, and that will help you keep your North Star and not get distracted by the insanity of our world.
Oh man, that is a great one. It's short, sweet, and to the point, and I think that that's something that you've also mentioned a couple of times is finding your North Star. Did you happen to write that in your journal to maybe help people find their North Star?
Not in my journal necessarily, but it's in my book and it's in my ebook, Getting Back Behind the Wheel, which is on Amazon. It's only $2.99 if you want to get it.
Okay.
And it's in my online program. I talk about it because knowing your North Star will help you with your career decisions
Mm-hmm.
and your financial decisions. Because a brain injury or any chronic illness can really change your life.
Mm-hmm.
And, just getting in touch with those values will help you make better decisions in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And oh, I think we've missed this early on, but what all can people find you on? Substack, I believe now, correct? And where else?
Right. Yeah. So on Substack, I put out an article every Monday. It's free. You don't have to pay unless you want. And I share this type of content. Um, and then I have a YouTube channel too, and that is at Kelly Tuttle, Brain Loving Advocate. And I have short videos. If you're a video person, not don't have enough brain energy to read the Substack, you can watch the videos. I have a ton of shorts, so you can go through the shorts, or you can go through my long form videos that are full of the content that is in my program and in my books and so forth. But they're short videos, so that I'm not using up all your energy of the day just to learn a little tidbit about how to live with your brain.
Ooh, I love that. A little bit of short, sweet, and to the point action just so that people can get to their not necessarily mental health wellness because it's their brain health wellness. It's a step further, right? It's an actual physical thing that holds the thoughts of the mental.
Yeah, there's so many facets about the brain. There's the physical structure of the brain, the cellular functioning of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's that mental health component. And when recovering from any brain injury, you're going to need support from all those avenues. So, embrace your provider's recommendation
Mm-hmm.
to not only go to your neurotherapist to help you with your balance or your visual person to help you with your vision, but also embrace talking to a counselor, a family counselor, a talk therapist, going to a support group, because that mental component is key. You've got to have a good mindset to get through the rough times and find the bright side on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that that's a really important aspect to hit on too, is that we've got to find that little bit of hope, even whenever hope seems kind of hard to not really see. With that being said, though, we'll probably see you on in the future, correct? Maybe dive down another rabbit hole or two.
No problem, Keegan. I'd love that. I think you're a
Awesome.
great podcast host. I have so much fun talking to you.
Well, I appreciate it. Do you have any last words or anything you want to leave the audience with today?
Yes, you're not alone. And look to those around you to help you on your journey to keep your steps straight. And you're enough. And if you're having a hard time thinking you're not enough, you need someone to talk to, call 988.
Thank you for that. I keep forgetting that that is still up and running after a certain part of it was turned off, which is stupid, but we
Yes.
won't get into that here. So, with that being said, everyone out there, thank you for listening to Retrieving Sanity on WDJY 99.1 FM. This has been Keegan and this has been Kelly. Go ahead and check her stuff out at kellytuttle.org. But in the meantime, you've got to love yourself, love others if you can, but you've got to love yourself first. And we'll see y'all in the future on a future episode. With that being said, much love. Sean.